Yeah. I think we're about ready to get started. Just to check, can you hear me in the back? It's a little quiet. If I step a little closer, is this better? That might be better. So I don't knock it.
All right, say something.
How about now? No, still not? Low. How about now? Is this better? Still about the same. Okay. Maybe here. Okay. Is this good? Checking. Jessica's got it. Okay. Excellent. And you can tell my voice is still recovering from a weekend with my godson. So please appreciate your patience with me and just let me know at any time if I need to stop and repeat something if it's hard to hear. I have the great honor of welcoming you here today for the third of 4 public meetings we have this fall to kick off Indiana's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. So we're really excited to welcome you here. This is a really big opportunity for the state, ideally to bring in some investment, federal investment into communities in Indiana, creating jobs, all while reducing air pollution. So something we're really, really excited about. I'll start off with a few housekeeping items, first of which are introductions. So we're really excited to be joined here today by members of Indiana's Department of Environmental Management, who are the grant recipients. So bringing this opportunity to the state. In addition, including the commissioner, who will get up in just a few moments and give us a few words of welcome. I'd also like to introduce our facilitation team. I'm Amanda Mast. I'm a senior manager with ClimeCo, and our role in this program is twofold. First, we'll be facilitating public meetings like these, and second, we'll have a team who will be supporting the quantitative analyses alongside plan development. I'm joined today by my colleagues Noah, Caroline, and Kamini. So you know our faces. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to come up to us. We're here to support. And then one other logistical item is that we are live streaming this event. So you can see the recording equipment right here. If you could keep comments, side conversations to a minimum, it really helps the people joining online to be able to hear effectively. So we do appreciate that. And both the slides and the recording will be made available after this presentation. So we go through things rather quickly to keep plenty of time for public comment. So if you have questions, that's available for your reference at your leisure afterwards. And I think that's it for logistics. Great. So I'd like to invite the commissioner up to say a few words for us. Thank you, Brian.
Good evening and welcome. As mentioned, my name is Brian Rocketsus. I'm the commissioner of the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. I want to thank NERC for hosting us. With me today, I have my chief of staff. I have members of our Office of Air Quality, our Northwest office. One of our Northwest office people now works for EPA. She's here in the crowd. I also want to thank Representative Pat Boy and Representative Jackson for coming out. And I'm so happy you all are here to join us. This is the third of the series of public meetings that we're hosting around the state. Amanda mentioned 4, but I think we might actually extend that even further just to make sure we're covering all areas of the state. And we're hosting these meetings to focus on different industries, sectors, universities, cities and towns, what have you, on how we can go about reducing our greenhouse gas in Indiana. So today is another kickoff. And in this process, we're developing a game plan on how we can access over $4 billion with a B dollars of funding through EPA. Now that's the competitive part of the grants that we're involved in. The grant we're working on now is simply putting together the priorities of the plan to get access to the 4 billion. And that money can go to anybody. We're looking at all voluntary kind of things that we can do either through industry or cities and towns or universities to help lower the greenhouse gas. So I in particular and all of my staff really appreciate all of your time and hopeful that your participation today really helps us bring this forward. This is a really great opportunity for the state of Indiana and actually all 46 out of the 50 states that are participating. It's access to life-changing kind of money that can really move the needle for greenhouse gas capture. And in Indiana, we're able to do it in a way that's very voluntary, that helps the companies and industries and universities and whoever move forward the things that they're already doing. And so with that, I'm going to thank you all again. I'm going to pass it back to Amanda and Climeco. We're here. We'll be taking notes on everything you guys put out. And so I thank you.
Thanks. So I will start by sharing a few goals for today. Let's see if it changes this slide. Do you mind changing your? Best laid and tested tech sometimes needs a little extra help. So our goals for today are threefold. First is sharing a little more detail about the grant. I'm giving you an overview of it, sharing how it can serve Indiana, as Commissioner Rockensus mentioned. Then getting to opportunities to participate. What are ways that you all can continue to engage, can support engagement from others you're involved with. And then finally opening up the floor for public comment. And we'll reserve the majority of the time for that because it's really important to hear everyone's voice, which is why we're here today. So starting with a grant overview and goals of this program, as Commissioner Rockensus mentioned, this is a grant that has been awarded to Indiana and 45 other states. The grant money is to fund the creation of a plan to achieve 3 core grant goals: benefiting communities, creating local jobs, and reducing air pollution. You'll hear me repeat these as the main theme because that is the core of what we're hoping to achieve here. And once we create this plan, build this plan, we can submit it back to the EPA to be competitive for that additional $4.6 billion in funding. So again, a really big opportunity for the state, for communities across Indiana. Engagement is absolutely essential to the success of this plan. So the groups you see on the screen, these are members of the coalition who will be working together to drive forward the goals of the plan, streamline the planning process, and meet grant requirements. Not pictured on the slide because there are just too many to list, but equally as important are there many other groups that we need to engage. So this includes representatives of communities, nonprofits, academia, and industry. Need all these voices chiming in to help us create a plan that will work for the many different stakeholder groups across the state. In terms of grant requirements, so this will fund a number of activities over the next 4 years, all serving the creation of the plan. At the same time, we have a very tight timeline for this first phase. This first phase is focused on creating a priority action plan. We kicked off in October and it's due in March, so really accelerated time frame. And what we're focused on in this phase is to identify those top actions that are impactful, can benefit communities, to be included in an application for those implementation grants, also due in April, if you see in that bullet. But we do have a little more time to also expand on the details of the plan, include other actions in a comprehensive plan that's due in 2025. So that is a reassurance that we can elaborate further in the future as well. I listed on the screen a number of the activities that go into the priority action plan. Don't want to dig into too much detail today, but just say that these are available on IDEM's website. If you want to take a more detailed look at them, they're available for you. But again, we want to leave a lot of time for public comment today. So with this really tight priority action plan timeline. Right now, we're focused, kicking off in October through today, on these core stakeholder meetings, which may expand as well across the state. And these are coupled with requests for information digitally, either via email or via survey for those who can't come in person, really welcoming input from stakeholders throughout the state as part of an ongoing stakeholder engagement process, which will continue throughout the life of the grant. And then again, we're charging forward to that March deadline. So what needs to be included in this action plan? It needs to identify actions that serve the grant's 3 core goals that I mentioned already: benefiting communities, creating jobs, and reducing air pollution. An example of a kind of activity that we could focus on could be something that improves the energy efficiency of buildings so that households can reduce their energy use while also saving money. So a win-win. Again, as Commissioner Rocketsu's already mentioned, we're focused really on voluntary actions. At the same time, if you came today with comments on policy, we welcome them, we'll take notes on them, and then direct them back to agencies who might be working with the legislator as well. Joint collaboration is what we're looking for through this planning process, through the stakeholder engagement, so that we're collectively identifying actions that'll really be meaningful and that people will want to participate in and benefit from. Go into a little more detail on some of these criteria of the plan. The first of which is benefits to communities. So while ideally we're identifying actions that can benefit a broad suite of stakeholders across the state, there is particular emphasis on disadvantaged communities. This grant program is part of the Justice 40 initiative. And so we're looking for benefits collaboratively, working with communities to identify actions that can benefit them. And some of the things that we've heard in past public meetings and through other avenues are, efforts to save money on energy, improvements to health are also important, capacity building. So if anyone here today represents a community, we really welcome your comments and would also really appreciate any help continuing to reach out to other stakeholders and promoting engagement so that we get a really good representation from groups throughout the state. The other criteria I do want to double click on is the focus on Indiana's footprint and addressing air pollution in particular. So the graph on the screen outlines Indiana's greenhouse gas emissions by sector. And a competitive plan will help us address some of these key impact areas. You'll see that electrical power generation, industry, and transportation are some key areas of opportunity for us. At the same time, if you have actions in other sectors as well, we welcome those ideas for broad consideration. So given the timeline, we didn't want to come here empty-handed. Instead, we've already completed an initial action screening. So looking at more than 50 community, company, and state level best practices from across the US. And then from this broader list, we focused in on a short list of actions that could meet the grant criteria, are also seem to be more relevant to Indiana's footprint and emission sources. And then finally, are more relevant to sources of funding that are available right now. I will go through at a high level some of these sources, some of these actions today, but all of them are available on the website, including our methodology, including the broader list. And I just want to reiterate, we're just now starting the stakeholder engagement process, so welcome input. Whether you see actions you like and could benefit you, please let us know. If you have ideas for other actions that didn't appear here, but should be considered, please let us know as well. We're just beginning the stakeholder engagement process and really want this to be collaborative. So with that in mind, I'll go through the first draft action. This one's focused on expanding the clean energy available in Indiana and the jobs that come with it. So this could be through expanding renewable energy development, whether that's solar or wind, depending on the community and what works there. It could also be through launching energy storage projects as well. The next draft action focuses on enhancing the energy efficiency of appliances, equipment, and buildings to reduce their energy demand while also saving households money. So this could be through improving insulation so more heat stays inside during winter, or it could be through providing purchase incentives so people can upgrade equipment and spend less money staying cool during the summertime. The next action focuses on reducing air pollution around roads through increasing use of electric vehicles. This could be through electrifying vehicles, the state and city fleets in particular, through expanding the existing work to expand charging stations throughout the state. And then finally, incentives for electrical vehicle purchase as well. And these are all just examples to get us thinking. Please let us know if some of these could benefit you or if you have ideas for others. The next action has a dual benefit, both of reducing air pollution and ideally connecting communities better through high occupancy vehicle options. This could be through expanding public transit, so either expanding bus routes to places with high demand or ones that are underserved. Or it could be through a number of other options to expand high occupancy vehicle use or ride shares as well. And the last one we'll go through in detail today is also very simple. It's simply reducing the food that gets thrown and waste that gets sent to landfill and reducing emissions that way. So this could be through programs that prevent food from getting wasted in the first place. Or it could be through programs that help increase composting available in residences or commercial buildings as well. And this has the added benefit of keeping materials in our systems getting reused. I won't go into these as in depth today, but want to note these others on the short list as well. First is increasing carbon sequestration with a particular focus on ag best practices, expanding low carbon energy, electrifying industrial processes, reducing industrial emissions, and then finally increasing renewable natural gas. I know we went through these very quickly. I want to again say they're all available on the website for you to review when you have a moment in detail, and we really welcome you to do so. So please let us know if you see ones that could benefit you or your community or organization. If you have ideas for other comments or actions that could be taken, we welcome those also. So to support all this feedback that we hope to be collecting, we have a couple of resources for you, both here and on the little signs around the room. So the first is this information hub that I continually reference. It's on IDEM's website and it includes all the detail on the grant programs, as well as a listserv that you can use, sign up for, and get updates on the program so we can help you track the progress being made. The second box outlines our ask for you. So please, please, please follow this link to our survey, share your priorities, share any actions that could benefit you, as well as ideas for others. And then finally, the third box, if you have any comments that we aren't able to address today, or concerns or questions, or if you already work with an organization with a climate action plan and want to send that our way, we really welcome it and want to build on the great work already being done. So please send it to this email address or give us a call. And don't worry, I'm going to put this back up at the end of the presentation. So if you don't have a chance to scan it now, it will be there for you. Again, promise to keep our comments short and sweet so we can hear from all of you. So opening it up to the public comment period, I have a couple of ground rules just so that we can be fair to everyone in the room and those who have been attending other public meetings. We really appreciate respectful dialogue so that we can keep a really productive discussion today. We welcome questions that are relevant to this grant program in particular. If you have comments on other important issues, we welcome them, but just would ask that you could speak to us after the public comment period, and we'll make sure your questions on other topics get back to the IDEM team. We can invite everyone to stand up by the microphone right here if you'd like to make your comment publicly. Otherwise, you can, of course, use the email address instead. So if you stand up here, you have 5 minutes on the floor. We'll give you a little wave when you're getting close to the 30-second mark. But so far, we've been having a good, easy time with it. And then just noting that, again, we are recording this, so use your judgment. And if you want to be standing up or recording or sending your comments via email. And I think that's our only. Oh, yes. And please, if you come up to speak, if you could also note your name and affiliation and zip code if you're so inclined, just so we know whose voices we're getting represented today. That would be wonderful and very much appreciated. So I think I will pause there and would love to invite the first person to come up to speak. Do you have any takers? Yes, please.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm State Rep Pat Boyd. I have an issue that I need really to see if you can address. I was watching the Weather Channel yesterday, and there's a study from scientists that say that we could reach the Earth's tipping point by 2029. Is this going to be fast enough?
Very, very valid concern, I think, for any of us who are watching the news of late. Great question on if it's going to be fast enough. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer today, but again, welcome participation on this big opportunity, and ideally we can do the best we can to make significant impact. So thank you for your comment.
Thank you for bringing me.
Hello, my name is Kathy Pearn. I'm a member of Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. And would you like a nice cold glass of microplastic? Plastic pollution poses a serious threat to the environment. It could pose a threat to our public health. More than 22 million pounds of plastic pollution ends up in the Great Lakes every year, according to the Rochester Institute of Technology. And it never goes away. There is no such place as a way. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces known as microplastics. Researchers have found alarming amounts of microplastic in the 5 Great Lakes. These lakes provide drinking water for 40 million people. They found microplastics in Great Lakes fish, drinking water, bottled water, and beer. They've also found microplastics in people. It's estimated we ingest about a credit card-sized amount of plastic each week. The building blocks of plastic are toxic in their own right, and once in the water, plastic fragments absorb toxic chemicals and can harbor potentially dangerous microbes. Factories that produce plastics use a host of dangerous chemicals, emit highly toxic cancer-causing emissions, and pose serious safety risks to the communities where they're located. Highland Neighbors for Sustainability have been working hard this year on keeping the recyclables out of the landfills and out of the water. Last winter, we toured the facility that collects the Highland recyclables so we could see the process firsthand. We've collected and dove into garbage cans to collect cans, cups, bottles at St. James Festival, Highland 4th of July Festival, St. Mary's Western Day Festival, and the Highland Barbecue Fest. We collected more than 8 cubic yards at the 4th of July Fest because we had a dumpster specially for recyclables. And for the other fest, each day we filled up a whole panel van and got that to the recycling center. This coming Saturday, we are sponsoring a pumpkin smash where people can bring their carved pumpkins and smash them into a truck, where we will take them to an animal sanctuary in Hobart. We are also collecting candy wrappers to be recycled. We just partnered with Trex and we are collecting plastic film that cannot be put in residential curbside recycling bins. Items like plastic grocery bags, bread bags, ice bags, shipping bags with all the labels cut off, cereal liners, case overwrap, and sandwich bags. And I have to confess that I stole this idea from Save the Dunes, and I thank them for that. And I'll pass this on. Everybody could be doing this. It's not enough to reduce and reuse and recycle. We need to refuse single-use plastic. Refuse single-use plastic items. Use refillable water bottles. Bring your own grocery bags. Use real silverware when you're eating lunch at your desk and when ordering food. Bring your own container for restaurant leftovers. I leave mine in the car so I remember to bring them. Lobby for water refill stations in your community, in the parks and in the schools. We need to make better choices to reduce the microplastics in our waters and in our bodies. And rain barrels. It looks like more rain is in our future, and more rain means the potential of more flooding. I've not been able to find any data on this, but wouldn't rain barrels reduce the possibility of flooding? I have 3 50-gallon rain barrels on my property, which is not much to avert flooding. But if everybody on the block had rain barrels, would that not have an impact on the amount of water in a heavy rainfall? I would like to envision a future where our roofs are working way harder. They can collect rainwater, they can collect solar panels. We can solve 2 problems without taking up any more land. Thank you. And I'll give you all my comments and my sources here. Print it both sides. Thank you.
Christina. I live in the Cherville area. And I am a former educator. I continue to be an educator, but I have a great relationship with the colleges in the area, high schools, middle schools, and friends with students who are aspiring to do all different types of things, whether it requires a trade or a college. But I'm very connected to Purdue, Northwest, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Purdue, West Lafayette. And all three of them offer many engineering programs, all of which have a final senior project involved in their degree. So I would encourage you to reach out to them as well as Indiana University and to get them involved. Sounds great. I want to say we are in touch, so thank you for reinforcing that strategy.
Good evening, I'm State Representative Jackson from Hammond. I represent the first district, which includes Whiting as well as a portion of East Chicago. This summer in July, many communities throughout the state of Indiana rushed to complete the Justice 40 applications for the charging stations. While we're still waiting to hear who received those grants, I'm curious as to how will this particular grant differ from those that many cities in the state applied for those charging stations that would be located in disadvantaged communities. Thank you.
Great question. I want to say, I think with this grant, we have a little more flexibility to choose different actions. So if we hear back from everyone that charging stations are already covered by another grant program, we can pivot to another action. If we hear that, hey, we didn't get funded in all of the communities that we were hoping to get funding for electrical charging, we can also cover it through this grant program. So I think the flexibility is different, but really all years to hear about programs that are working or any gaps that you're seeing that we could potentially fill here. So thank you for flagging that for us.
Good evening, I'm Susan Mahalo. I'm with the Nature Conservancy in Indiana. And I'm hoping that, you're probably working already with Sean Mobley on our staff. He's in charge of climate policy. One thing he's very interested in, I know, is incentives, making sure that there are good incentives for Hoosiers to participate in climate action. But I know also, personally, I think it would be great to see some more research done on the benefits of green infrastructure, being able to sequester carbon and forestry. There's a lot of conflicting information, let's just say, about that. So I hope that we're assessing our green space and our forests in the state of Indiana to see how they're helping with this. Thank you.
Great point, and we're definitely taking notes, but I do want to say that one of the subtasks within the priority plan and comprehensive plan is doing an analysis of the greenhouse gas potential. And we're looking at both activities to reduce emission and carbon sinks. So enhancing green spaces and the carbon sequestration capabilities of trees. It could be one of the things we assess if that's something that people select as an action.
Good evening, I'm Jenny Rutterham. I'm a resident of Geary and a member of Geary Advocates for Responsible Development. My comments are mostly personal, and I do understand that our director of the Department of the Environment, she said she sent some materials to you guys already, so I'm not really speaking as a city, but keeping my comments addressed to these plans, I'm glad she brought that up. When I heard that carbon sequestration was one of the solutions, I know there is a lot of concern in the region as well as the state around carbon pipelines and sequestration in the ground. And I would really hate to see billions of dollars going to a technology that I think a lot of people rightly distrust and don't really want. I think it's helpful to see that the main issues are the energy generators and industry and transportation. And yet I still hear a lot of rhetoric around it's going to be voluntary and we're still looking at the solutions that individuals can do. And I feel like as an individual, I have maxed out the things that I can do. And what I really need from solutions that are coming from a state level or a federal level are to address the people that I can't individually control. So I live in Geary. The steel mills on the lake are the 3 largest carbon generators, probably in the country, but certainly in the state. And I think any plan where we're really trying to reduce emissions and improve air pollution has to look at industry first and foremost and come up with some solutions and probably some teeth so that they actually are reducing their emissions. I mean, these are not struggling companies. They make, record profits. They can afford to put on better pollution controls and explore these technologies, but they're not. So I do think there needs to be some strength in whatever plan is coming that will, address those issues. Let's see, what else did you guys mention? I think that was my big thing. I also, we do have a public transit company. I know it could really stand to be better funded than it is, so it can run more routes as it is. When I take public transit, I need to be home by 7 because then it doesn't run anymore. So I couldn't even come, not that it comes here, but I couldn't come to this meeting via public transit. And so I would also consider, where are you having your meetings? Are they accessible via public transit? Are they, 40% of these public meetings, are they taking place in Justice 40 communities? I would argue maybe not. And so I think if you want to get those voices and if you're really committed to getting the dollars back into those communities, I would support having some meetings and spaces that are in those communities and that are accessible via public transit. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Actually, I do have one clarifying question. So about your first comment with carbon sequestration, wanted to see, is that simply carbon sequestration below ground, or did it apply? I think some of the main measures we're looking at are agricultural best practices, so soil tilling and things. Could you clarify which ones you have concerns about?
Yeah, so I guess I'm speaking specifically to things that have been announced by BP, where they're specifically looking to create pipelines that would pipe it into central Indiana and sequester it under the ground, under farmlands. So that is the type that I am concerned with.
Thank you for clarifying, Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Melasta Hernandez and I'm with Justice Session Northwest Indiana. I live in Highland and we request that funds received from the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant are awarded to assisting community programs already working on this issue. No funds for industry greenwashing programs. A full record of all testimonies at these meetings must be publicly available, and whatever funds are distributed must align with the public's input to this grant request. And I also want to add that you guys mentioned working with PNW and IU, and I'm a PNW student, and I'm actually I'm actually involved with the Multidisciplinary Environmental Alliance, and I was wondering how that will work with this grant. Or ideas that you guys already have was working with the universities.
Our first contact was just seeing how we can better have outreach into the student body and groups like that. So love to chat with you afterwards and be able to share and ideally engage more, because that is exactly the groups we are hoping to engage with further. Thank you so much for coming up and speaking. Oh, absolutely. Actually, welcome to come up. And then I want to add one more comment to yours about transparency. So what I'm hearing is please publish the comments that we're receiving so others can see them as well. And one thing I can assure you that we're doing is also publishing the results of the survey so everyone can see transparently what everyone else is commenting on. So wanted to provide that reassurance too. And if you have other ideas or requests, please let us know.
Yeah, right. The one other thing I forgot that I meant to mention is, so I know Gary has, the Gary Public Schools have a career center. I know Hammond also has a career center. And I think one way that you could really get creative in terms of job creation, but then have the way to impact some of these other projects, whether it's like retrofits or conservation work, is sort of revitalizing and funding sort of like a green conservation core within those sort of career academies, Ivy Tech sort of, but like focus them in the communities, you know, where we have really high unemployment. And I know it can be really hard sometimes to tip the scale with adult workers, but if you can get those skills into younger people in the community, they can help support their families and then learn these really valuable skills while doing the work of helping reduce emissions and making us more climate resilient.
Thank you for sharing in those programs as well. For taking notes. And that's the second person who's mentioned workforce development and getting, especially with education for younger groups. So I'm glad you came back up. Next person.
Hello, my name is Connie Wachala, and I'm a member and co-leader of Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. That's zip code 46322. That we are a neighborhood group, grassroots group, but we have been appointed an advisory associate partner to the town of Highland on sustainability issues. And that was no easy feat, I'll tell you, but we succeeded. Thank you for convening this public meeting and allowing us this opportunity to speak. And this is our group's statement. So we would like to address 3 areas. One is reducing pollution and waste. The two is increasing natural habitat to protect biodiversity. And 3 is educating students, municipal officials, and the public. So 1, reducing pollution and waste. Northwest Indiana participated in the IU Environmental Resilience Institute's resilience cohort in 2021. Michigan City and Gary actually did that emissions inventory the year before. And then in 2021, we got the inventory to be done in 14 cities and towns in the 3 counties. We had a very big participation rates. So the next step is to make reductions, and especially in energy and transportation sectors. And some of these things you already mentioned, but I'll just read what I have. I've been looking at climate action plans and, you know, in the area, and took the most, well, dwindled them down to what I wanted to say. So this could include increasing energy efficiency in existing buildings through, for example, insulation upgrades and retrofits, and requiring better energy efficiencies in new construction. Also include natural forms of carbon sequestration, urban canopies, green spaces, native plantings along state roads and highways, protecting and restoring wetlands and woodlands, and supporting cover crops on farm fields. And also amplify clean energy availability, for example, expanding rooftop solar and energy storage, creating the availability of community solar, which is currently not allowed in our state. We've been working to, we've been sending postcards out to our state representatives to ask them to support it. Also implement curbside compost collection and encourage household composting to minimize food waste. Also electrify state and municipal fleets and add more charging stations. Also expand public transportation options to develop local, regional, and statewide methods of travel. In Highland, we have no public transportation. As I'm getting older, I would love to be able to not have a car to take public transportation. Also, there's not a lot said about this, I think, but reducing light and noise pollution for quality of life improvements to humans, pets, and wildlife. And this could be by implementing sky compliant lighting, for example, and discouraging leaf blowers. But if they are using electric blowers, the best is to leave the leaves as they provide habitat and winter protection for insects and other critters, and discourage factory farming and promote sustainable farming. And then my second point, which was increasing natural habitat to protect biodiversity. And under that, we could expand the tree canopy in our communities, encourage zoning and building codes in all Indiana municipalities that include environmentally friendly requirements, such as bird-safe windows, green roofs, and landscaping with native plants. Also, increasing awareness of how using and sharing invasive plants contributes to environmental pressures on local natural ecosystems. Institute programs to replace invasives with native plants, trees, and shrubs. And then also enshrining the 30 by 30 America the Beautiful initiative, which is conserving 30% of land and waterways by 2030. 30 by 30 isn't only about setting aside natural areas such as nature reserves, but it's also about increasing the habitat available to wild species everywhere there's land, including in cities and towns, suburbs, and agricultural areas. And then finally, 3, educating students, municipal officials, and the public, and perhaps implementing grade appropriate place-based natural education in schools so children can learn about the ecosystem they live in. Also host community programs that teach homeowners about native plant landscaping and the negative effects of invasive plants and trees on local ecosystems. And then finally, implementing enlightened public policies that, for example, ban artificial turf. Also have public works crews plant sedges and other native plants on parkways after street work disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up the important co-benefit of habitat. It's really a great one.
Good evening. I'd like to address one tier 1 action and a few tier 2 actions. Regarding tier 1 under the sector electric generation, one action is to maintain, develop, and expand utility scale renewable energy generation. It seems environmental justice, which has been so neglected in the past, continues to fall further down the line of priorities. One area that would address that is community solar. There are people who want to do the right thing to change our energy trajectory away from fossil fuels. And that includes people from low income and disadvantaged communities who have historically been denied the right to do what's best for their own health and well-being. As far as solar installations go, many people can't afford to invest a lot of money up front, or can't invest for a long time frame, or maybe they rent, or maybe they move after a few years. With community solar, all citizens can participate in lowering their carbon consumption, while at the same time lowering their electric bill. And with less consumption comes less small particulate matter. I would encourage you to prioritize community solar while embracing distributed energy generation. Consider community solar makes the grid resilient and functional. If a group of private investors, like anyone in this room, spends their own money on community solar to build collectively a large solar array, it's just that much less generating capacity all the rest of us ratepayers have to build to meet peak demand. And instead of peak demand being met with diesel generators or new power plants, that need is offset with clean energy. Tier 2 actions are valuable because they have potential co-benefits, again, such as public health impacts and environmental justice. Among the tier 2 strategies under the sector RNC buildings is action number 29, to increase residential and commercial building energy efficiency with a strategy of LED retrofits of buildings and roads. Here's where you can get much more bang for your buck than just energy efficiency. You can greatly impact an entire pollution category, namely the scourge of light pollution. Light pollution denies cultures the heritage of the night sky, a dark sky which is still there behind the sheen of sky glow, waiting for us to reclaim it. Over millennia, we have evolved to thrive where half of our lives is from sunset to sunrise. That now missing darkness serves human health in the entire animal kingdom, in part by regulating our circadian system, which suppresses certain cancers and other health concerns. LEDs can be full cutoff and can reduce glare, thus improving road safety. They can be on timers and dimmers, and the correlated color temperature, or CCT, in degrees Kelvin, can be adjusted for different functions. In support of CPRG guidance, action number 29 can be near-term and is implementation ready. Please deploy solid-state technology such as LED light fixtures and controls. And to further lessen the ubiquitous light pollution, insist grant recipients follow the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting, published jointly by the International Dark Sky Association and the Illuminating Engineering Society. Embrace Action 29 with vigor in buildings and roads, and you will address multiple woes. Lastly, if time permits, I discourage you from prioritizing actions number 16 and number 32, which expand or increase use of lower carbon fuel sources. No, do not prioritize expanding any carbon-based fuel sources. Rather, prioritize, that is, fund, expanding non-carbon fuel sources. Interim steps will only fossilize the system further. We can't delay. Indiana needs bold solutions for a brighter, more equitable, and more sustaining future. I thank you for being here tonight to hear community input, and I appreciate your service.
Yeah, would you mind saying your name really quickly? Would you mind sharing your name so we can note it down? Thank you.
Name is Chuck Bueter, B-U-E-T-E-R, St. Joseph County,
Thank you.
Indiana.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Dimitrov. I'm part of a newly formed Environmental Sustainability Commission for the town of Porter. I'm kind of new to environmental advocacy and I might be a little naive, so I have some questions. Can we use this grant money to prevent the building of other polluting industries in Northwest Indiana? And I'm speaking on the Fulcrum Centerpoint facility that they're talking about putting in up in Gary. And I believe IDEM has an air permit for them already. They've not proven to be a very nice company. They have not done any work in their other location in Nevada. And also they have defaulted on their loans. Is there some way this money can be used to combat something like that? Some more polluting coming into this part of the state. I would love to see that happen. And speaking to plastics, is this something else that's grant money could help us with? I believe there is an Indiana law that prevents the banning of plastics. How can this money be used to change policies and plans that are already anti-environment?
Fair questions. I think I'll get back to you with a more robust answer. We'll be posting a Q&A after the public meeting. So give me a little bit to get you a more robust answer. I should acknowledge though, this grant money is separate from the permitting program up front. And when it comes to plastics, great point. And I think others brought that up as well. I think we do have to show that these initiatives reduce air pollution. So if there's some air pollution reduction that also has a co-benefit with plastics, that's wonderful. And I invite anyone to share that. Don't have any off the top of my mind right now, but thank you for sharing those points.
Town of Porter. The first thing that comes to mind was the Solar for All program, which I think is community solar. I'm not sure if it's the same idea, pretty sure it is. I know it's been really successful in Illinois. We don't have anything like that in Indiana, which is such a shame. But in Illinois, I've seen disadvantaged families and elderly people get their electric bills reduced to $10 a month, which benefits households and would definitely benefit households in my community. And be very appreciative if that happened here or in Northwest Indiana. This type of infrastructure helps people in need, it creates the jobs, and of course, it reduces your greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you.
Any more comments? Or would you say your name and affiliation first?
My name is David Warnicki Ellis. I don't officially represent any organizations. My zip code is 46342, so I live in Vancouver. I would appreciate if there's a focus put on fugitive emissions. Any companies who want to reduce those, it's a big chunk of the pie chart in Northwest Indiana. And I think that it's an obvious place where there could be significant reductions. So a good bang for the buck. I also would like to see a focus on environmental justice communities when evaluating any of those monies going out, and make sure it's not just what are considered disadvantaged communities, but communities that are mostly composed of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I'd also like to see a metric set for carbon reductions that includes the Paris Agreement goals and uses science-based targets to determine what those goals should be and the tempo for reducing emissions in Indiana. And there are interesting examples out there, including Paul Hawkins' project Regeneration, which does a lot of science already to demonstrate what kind of projects would have the greatest impact. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Sandy O'Brien, also from Hobart, and I was a Sierra Club leader along with the last speaker for many years. But I'm not speaking for Sierra Club or anybody now. But I do know that there's a lot of carbon that can be put into the soil by cover crops and rotational grazing, the modern holistic grazing, or sometimes people call it mob grazing. But it's a way of getting much healthier food. And somehow if we can can big ag in Indiana. Indiana's really ripe for a big regenerative farming movement that would really sink a lot of carbon in the soil and address the issue of continuous topsoil loss. Because the soil doesn't have organic matter, it can't hold the water runs off and causes flooding. But if it has organic matter, that organic matter will hold the water. And it's the same in natural areas. We need to be burning our natural areas that, at least in Northwest Indiana, evolved with annual fire for the Native Americans, and then the natural areas can sink carbon also. Because the fire makes the sedges grow and the furry grasses and all the native plants, they have deep roots, and if you keep burning, you have more reduction of carbon that's sinking into the soil. So those are two solutions that I wanted to point out.
Maureen Carey, City of Gary. I'm a member of Gary Advocates for Responsible Development. And I just want to ask that the state not put any additional monies into fake green projects like the Fulcrum Center Point plan that claims that will make low carbon jet fuel out of garbage, because there's no, all research indicates the fact that it will take more carbon energy to make than it saves. Thank you.
Roll call. Okay. Right, I think we've sped through comments. So thank you so much for everyone who stood up here, participated. At the same time, if you think of something right after this conversation, there are, again, the website, the survey, the email address. So please let this be a continuous conversation. Please reach back out to us at any time. We'd love to hear from you. So just giving you a heads up on what's coming most immediately next. Where our survey is open in both English and Spanish language translation. So please invite your friends, family, members of your organizations to fill this out, to vote for things that could work for them, share priorities as well. We're really excited to gather this feedback and also transparently share the results of that program. We also have at least one more public meeting after which will be live streamed. So if anyone didn't catch today but can't make it in person, we welcome their participation remotely as well. And then after that, we'll post the Q&A so everyone can see some key comments that were made both here and across other sites as well. Then the survey will close end of month. We'll work on a number of analyses. If you have data for us, we're welcoming it at that time. And then hope to have that draft plan available for review with everyone's input early next year. So thank you again for coming out today, spending your time with us this evening, and please continue to contribute. We really will benefit from everyone's participation in this program. And our teams are around, items around to answer any questions you have after we close the meeting as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.